enters a large enough population, there'll be a number
I'm
of
listening to
sensitive
Joe
individuals,
Rogan.
and someone will die. It doesn't mean that the drug is dangerous.
I'll
It means that
probably
it's unrealistic to set a
removed,
standard where if anything
but
bad
I
happens
like to listen
anyone,
to him.
we have to decide that the drug is
I'm
dangerous and
not
should be banned.
Yeah, I agree. I
gonna
mean,
talk
look,
about him.
water
I
kills
just-
people.
I
There's
think
a lot
he's
of
a good
these
guy to go follow.
hazing things where the fraternity kids will
He,
be asked
you
to
don't
drink
always
a shit
agree
ton
with
of
him.
water,
Who
and
cares?
Oh, yeah.
You don't have to
people
agree
die
with
from it. A
people
woman
to
died
hear
in San Jose a
perspectives
few
of
years
different
back
people.
from
And he interviews a lot of interesting people.
contest to drink water to
Like
get her
this
son
guy,
like
Hamilton
an Xbox
Morris.
or something like
He's
that.
fascinating.
Yeah,
Writer,
I mean, there's a lot
documentarian,
of things that are lethal, but the LD50
psychonaut,
for cannabis is,
and scientific
you literally have to smoke your
researcher.
body with
His
or something,
show,
right? It's
Hamilton's
something crazy.
Pharmacopoeia, is available on
Doesn't mean you
Viceland and
couldn't get so
iTunes.
high that you did
This
something
is Joe
really
Rogan
stupid and wind up
Experience
dying.
number 1136.
Yeah, especially dependent upon the person.
Streamed on YouTube June 26,
biological
2018.
Right, exactly.
He's got 12,816,110 views
But in my opinion,
on this
safety
video
isn't
so
the
far.
point. It doesn't ultimately matter to me whether or not something is safe. I think we should have the freedom to do dangerous things if we choose. We're allowed to ride motorcycles, we're allowed to shoot guns, you're allowed to go skydiving and bungee jumping. All those things carry risks, but it's assumed that any adult that does them is aware of those risks.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Exactly.
I mean,
Thank you.
It's also
Finally,
who
some
is-
logic
if
and
the
some
society
sense.
that we
These
live in was
days,
just
it's
you and
gone
I,
all
was that
weird
we were
and
the only two
wonky.
people alive. Who are you to tell me what I can do, or me to tell you what you can do? It's ridiculous. And so when you have grown
It's ridiculous.
adults telling a grown adult who's informed what they can and can't do,
Are we telling
becomes
people
a
who
question of
live
children.
in very
Well, then it
restrictive
becomes
societies they
an
can't do
education
that?
issue, and it
Well,
becomes
I
a
guess
parental
sometimes we
issue.
do.
I mean, it's
But
just,
maybe we shouldn't be doing
you can't
that.
lie to your
Let
children
people
about the
live as
effects
they
of
want to
certain
live
drugs,
and let
'cause then
them
they're not
come
gonna
here as a
believe you about
haven
the
when they
really
need to escape
the actual
if their
dangerous
society gets too
Right.
stupid.
And this is, of course, reflected
Right?
in the so-called opioid epidemic.
However, there are
right now.
certain
Yes,
basic
There's
things
endless
that we need to come to
finger-pointing. Everyone
agreement
wants
on.
to find a culprit that's behind all of it, and the easiest person to blame, of course, are pharmaceutical companies, because everybody hates pharmaceutical companies, so why not blame them?
Right.
But, you know, and I'm not pro-pharmaceutical by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm also
But there
not
is a place for it.
anti-pharmaceutical either.
Exactly.
And
I don't like a
when
lot of
you
the things
look
that
at the
they're getting
way,
away
for
with,
example,
or
the New
they're
York
doing,
Times
or they're
is covering
deciding to
the
do it,
opioid epidemic,
or
it's always in
they
this
seem to
tone
lack
of,
the
like,
compassion
documents
and
were
are doing.
uncovered that show that executives
But
in
there
Purdue
is a place
Pharma
for
were
the
aware that morphine
pharmaceuticals.
was addictive
Most
as early
pharmaceuticals
as
are just plants
1999.
and
It's like,
recipes and
well, of
herbs,
course. Of
recipes
course they
that
were
have
aware.
been
People
taken
have
from
known
other
morphine is addictive
nations.
for hundreds of years.
And we've
This is
relabeled them
old
as,
news.
you know,
And this whole
complicated
idea that
garbage.
doctors were convinced by some letter in the New England Journal of Medicine
But that doesn't make it
said
bad.
that
Well,
OxyContin
except for the
isn't
fact that
addictive
they
is
stole
absurd.
it.
These are all
Usually they
morphine
steal it, they
derivatives.
don't
Any
buy it.
adult, especially a medically trained adult, should know that no matter what little variation you make on that molecule, if it's structurally and
There's an
pharmacologically
Indian
and
woman who
qualitatively
is,
similar to morphine, of
Russell
course it's going
Brand
to be addictive.
loves her
And
and
that
has
in and of itself
her
isn't
on
even
his
a
show
bad
all the
thing.
time. She's
It
the
should
one
be
who said
okay
that.
to give people addictive drugs as well,
About
as long as everyone's aware
pharmaceuticals
of the
stealing
risks.
these,
As long
you
as I
know,
understand
ancient
the protocol to get off
herbs
of it.
and
You
recipes
know, there's so many
and
people
taking
that
them for themselves.
get on these things and then wind up taking them far longer than they're supposed to, because
Yeah,
it's
I
easy
agree with
to
that.
get hooked.
Okay, I could be on here for ages. We're 3 minutes in, so I love you, Joe Rogan, and your family for letting Joe Rogan be himself. And thank you for everybody who helps make him possible. I really appreciate that show right now. Okay, what kind of music do you want to listen to, little man? What do you think? Icelandic Yule music. If this is too crazy, maybe not, but let's see. Celtic Winter Magical Christmas. Bob Huff posted this one. He's got 3,011 subscribers.
In a world where people are constantly
Subscribe.
looking up, how do you get them to look up?
Commercial.
What?
Alright, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. Where's your pacifier? There's arguments about whether or not pacifiers are good or not. Honestly, everything has a purpose, but if you do things in excess, that's when you come into trouble. Do you want your binky, or do you want to just go lay down? Or go on your swing? There's so many things you could do. Really? Okay. Let's go put you in your swing. Do you want to be on your swing? with you. Yeah. What I've posted on my website, I'm going to be reading excerpts from a book that I wrote. Originally, I just called it a book. Right now, its title is Jesus Loves Your History, which was the next title I came up with. Then I was going to call it Noah and Hank, Forgiveness Meetings, a novel. Then I was going to call it Just Another Book. I didn't know what to call it. Right now, it is, I'm pretty sure it's Jesus Loves Your History. Wrote this in Ireland, but I had been writing it before, and in my note-taking when I was on my sabbatical. It's referred to as my sabbatical. Those who know me know what that means. Noah and Hank, Forgiveness Meetings, first edition, 2018. I copywrote it. I started writing it in 2014 officially, but it had been brewing before then. My husband at the time encouraged me to write the book. He listened to this book and read it on more than one occasion, same sections over and over again. Really? Do you have something to say, Elijah? Really? Okay. Do you want your diaper changed? Okay. Let's turn everybody over here. I know. Mommy's weird. She doesn't edit. But you know what's fun about your mom? I don't really care, because people have the forward button. And if they don't, sucks to be them. Right? We can make the movie without having to waste time editing, because I'm not good at it, and it takes me ages. Ugh. Plus, I feel like full experiences aren't a bad thing. Ah, no wonder. You do not like to be the slightest bit wet, which is good. Neither do I. Yeah? Okay, let's do this. I have an idea. Let's try wrapping the diaper this way. And then we'll do this. Really? Tell me all about it. You know what? I'm very curious to see what you think about this book when you're older. Maybe you can tell me. If I teach you grammar enough, maybe you'll be willing to edit the book. Nobody seems to be willing without lots of money, and I just don't have lots of money. So I post my art with its imperfections until maybe you're old enough to edit. Would you like to? It's okay if you don't. Some people just don't like reading, but some people love it. I'm very curious to see which one you'll end up. Okay. Ah, and there you go. How do you feel now? Better? Yeah? Yeah? Come here. Let's see. I'm organizing baby clothes right now, so the room is a little intense. Really? I didn't think so. I didn't think so. That seems like a pretty big deal. And I didn't think it was that big of a deal. Really? Really? I'm gonna put some clothes on you. It's not morning anymore. Really? Is that how you feel? Well, you've been fed and you've been changed multiple times. You're looking good. maybe this is swing time. Maybe it's time for you to go in the swing so that you can look at your mobile, right? Enjoy that pacifier while you still can. Because once you have teeth, I'll be probably taking that from you and giving you teethers. So enjoy it while you can. Should we put one of your Nana shirts on you? These are one of the shirts that Nana got you. I really look up to my papa. Oh, look. That's little... What are these, Brontosaurus? The ones with the long necks? I wish that the tags weren't these plastic things. They're dangerous for you. I wish they were just pins or something. Or, you know what? Put a little tiny loop of fabric at the back of the neck. And then just, you know, put a piece of string instead of these plastic things. I know they're probably cheaper, but they're so dangerous on baby clothes. Because what if they fall and I don't see them to pick them up from somewhere maybe I don't vacuum, and you find it and you eat it? Huh? I've gotta be careful with that, huh? It would be nice not to have to worry about it. Let's put your shirt on. Here you go. Really? Is that how you feel? You can manage this. Arm in the arm slot. There you go. Oh, really? Oh, really? Yeah? I understand. Come on. Let's go enjoy your swing.
Need to redo my resume on Indeed. All my shit's like from September to 2020. Right there. That ain't gonna fly anymore.
No, there we go. Trust me. Alright. There you go. Baby! There you go.
Saggy bottom boy. Saggy bottom boy. Are you a saggy bottom boy? Who got it? Soggy bottom boy. Are you a soggy bottom boy?
Like, yes, because my giant diaper. Awesome. Pardon the state of me.
Still recording?
Yeah. Okay. I was thinking about adding more stuff to this book, like character breakdowns, more steps, which means more stories. I haven't been motivated to write the next book because I haven't gained enough interest in this one yet. So, why yet? I mean, if I write it now and then the relevancy changes, I feel like it should be poignant to the times. I'm just gonna wait. I took this out of the book, but I'll read it here. It's about the author. I tried to describe myself. This is something I'm not very good at. The story of my life is random. I understand most about the author sections are written third person, but I am me, so I speak for myself. My life's focus has been ever-changing up to this point, and I have done a lot of interesting things, met a lot of wonderful people, and seen some spectacular places. This world can be a beautiful place when it wants to be, when I want to be. The long and short of it is this. Bounced around and experienced many different schools, towns, and countries. Like working on movies and love music, but the service industry has been paying the bills, whether that's in food or retail. Like right now I'm doing jewelry sales, and I love it. I'm having a lot of fun because I'm able to give people beautiful experiences for like key moments in their life. Because who walks in a jewelry store besides a thief? You know, who walks in a jewelry store? Everyone. Because different occasions, you know, want to get my mom something, want to do something nice for my dad, want to get my grandparents a gift. You know, someone just died and I want to buy something that commemorates the life that they've lived and who they meant to me. Buying birthday gifts from wives and husbands and children, and, you know, it's a really like marriages, promise rings, engagement rings from all different walks of life. And it's really amazing to meet all these beautiful people. So, I appreciate the service industry. I just wish I got paid better for it and I could receive tips. You know, because if somebody gives you a good experience in life, why is tipping not a nice thing to do? Give people a little extra for the hard work they put into making your experience worthwhile for any industry. I don't see what's wrong with that. Now, when people are motivated based on the tips, maybe that's not so great. But if everybody tipped, it would even that out. You know? Anyway, I digress. Per my unusual usual. Okay. Like working on movies and love music, but the service industry pays the bills. I'm a Sagittarius. I feel that's important. You need to know that about me. Not currently a trillionaire, and I do not look down or up at anyone because money ebbs and flows. I've experienced wealth. I've experienced great poverty. And both as a legal individual and an illegal individual. So I know what it feels like to be an illegal immigrant. Now, my experience was a lot better than most other people's. I think that's my mindset, and also the company that I had kept made it possible for me to keep my sanity through really difficult times. Right? It's difficult when you feel unwanted for any reason. Have personally experienced houselessness in first world countries. I've done this in America, in California, Oregon, Washington, and I've done this kind of in Arizona, but not really. And then once in Ireland. Well, actually, yeah, one major time in Ireland. And I got to experience the social system from the bottom up. I know what it's like to be upper middle class as well. I've met people of great wealth, and they have gifted me experiences in their life with them, free of charge, which is amazing. Get your mind out of the gutter. It's purely friendship with me. You know, I've met people all over the world, and I've contributed to their lives in one way or the other. Maybe I've given them something. I still do. When I find a book that is amazing, I will buy multiple copies. I'll buy a copy for myself, give it away with my hand marks and everything, my notes. Then I'll do it again. You know, I'll buy the book again, do it again, rewrite new thoughts on the book, pass it out until I've worked through that cycle. Then I'll pick a new topic of betterment and I'll share that with people. And some individuals find great value in me sharing this, and they give what they can. You know, people have made meals for me. They've helped me get places, do things, help other people. So, how do you make your life like this? You just decide to do it. You know? Have personally experienced houselessness, 2 world countries. 3 times. So not too sure if that's quite enough for judgment's sake and readability, however it is enough for now. This is what it looks like. This is what my book looks like right now. Thank God for my friend Trisanne who printed this for us. Dental is expensive. Can we just have a conversation about that? I feel like dental should be included in all medical just automatically. Because dental, your teeth, your mouth, dictates how the rest of your body is going to feel. When your teeth hurt, you can't function. You know? And to have, like, you know, we have, I think it's St. Vincent here as well. Or is it St. Paul? We have an organization that helps people who are low on the financial totem pole with dental. But you have to, like, be on a lottery and, I don't know. It's strange. They don't just help you with whatever it is that you need help with. I mean, if you're going to help, help. You know what I mean? I guess the reason they do that is because so many people need help that they have to kind of divvy it out, which is unfortunate. Right now, I am wealthy with love and friendship and stuff that I need to live my life. I'm not wealthy in terms of liquid assets. And that's okay. That's where I'm at right now. I mean, at one point I was making, I think, $1,600 or $1,700 a week working on a movie set, 213. Judge the movie all you want. I was in the costume department of that film, and there's a lot of shit talked about the costume department of that film because of a costume choice of the lead character. And I had kind of planted the seed of that idea when we were in the costume warehouse of the one place that Nicholas had an office. He was the one who taught me how to tie-dye for the first time. I tie-dyed a skirt. It was adorable. And I bought my first rolls of fabric. I wish I had the name of that company still. I'd buy fabric from them again. We were walking through the warehouse looking at costume ideas for what he would wear when he killed people. This is like a cop mystery movie. And I had this idea, why doesn't he just kill like without his clothes and stuff on, because then he doesn't have all the extra fibers. And it could also speak to his, you know, deep-seated neuroses. How illogical neuroses can be. And it must have sunk in because one of them woke up one morning with an idea of, you know, having the lead character kill this specific way. They got a lot of shit for it, but I still stand by that idea. I think it was different. I made it on Netflix for a little bit. Mark Thompson wrote it. His wife was going through cancer at that time. The only thing that I would have changed about that situation is I would have recommended it go union. I know it's more expensive, Or if there was a way to even just help Nicholas Palm with his insurance, his health insurance during that time, because he had AIDS when it wasn't acceptable, you know, when you died if you didn't get your treatments, which you still do. But he couldn't get his insurance because he was union and he needed the heavy duty insurance for contracting HIV/AIDS. Now, the fact that Mark Thompson's wife is going through cancer at the time, I felt like, and we were all being super low budget because, you know, she was going through cancer. I don't know, I guess I was hoping that they would have made a decision at the production level, like, hey, can we just help Nicholas out with this? I don't know if it was possible or not, but if it was, even if they could have just paid for his private sessions until the film was over. I don't know, something. But he passed away not too long after that. He was pushing me away because he was dying. And he didn't tell me that he had AIDS. He didn't tell me that he was dying. He just pushed me away. And I couldn't understand. I couldn't even go to his funeral. Because I couldn't. I miss him a lot. He was beautiful. And his big fluffy baby dog. I mean, I met him on the set of Beachbody Abs. I was one of those people who were losing weight. Me and my mom were doing it. And it was Hip Hop Abs, to be specific, but it was a Beachbody subsidiary. They make a bunch of videos. And I can't remember where I found it, but I was, at the time, doing acting for student films and short films and, you know, different things like that. And we had lost some weight. We probably could have done better at it, I will admit that. But we lost quite a bit of weight. I had a really fun time doing that. The meal prepping that they did for us, it was a cool program. And he was just so beautiful. I think he's, you know, married and has kids now. He's lovely. The final day, when they were doing the afters, you know, the very last day, they had a costume designer, and I had brought in a giant suitcase of costumes. You know, clothes from this boutique I was trying to do out of my home. I was trying to set up, you know, boutiques for home to home, kind of like, you know, they do for Tupperware or at Avon or whatever. And I had all these extra items, brand new things, and they were fun. I had crazy style. That's why I probably didn't do as well. I needed to be more basic in certain areas because too much is too much. But I had a blast. I had so much fun. I picked out a bunch of ballroom type gowns that I had for sale, and I could have presented them better as well, I think, maybe. But I had fun doing that. I brought all these clothes in, and Nicholas was like, "Oh, you're into fashion." And I told him, you know, what I was trying to do, and he goes, "You want to work on movies? You want to work in costume?" And I thought, I don't know costume, but I said, sure, I'll try it. I mean, I can only do what I can do, but I can definitely try. He pulls me on to 213, this feature length. The lady, what's her name? Terry Polo from Meet the Fockers. She was on it. And, imagine being a costume supervisor which is the business side of costuming. You've never been on a film before like that, doing that. And he's like, oh, you'll be fine. Just follow my lead, you'll be fine. And I said, okay. Toward the end there, I had to call in for reinforcements. My sister's ex-boyfriend, his mom, she was into films and did all sorts of stuff, and she came on, and she helped out at the end, thank God. I didn't know he was really suffering at that time. He was missing work the very last few days. What was that actress's name? She was lovely. I think she was on a soap opera of some kind. I can't remember. Dwight Yoakam was in it. Anyway, this one lady, she was the mother. And amazing, wonderful, really sweet lady. However, the last day, she was livid. Nicholas wasn't there. I hadn't checked the dress to make sure that the size was the same as the other one. Like, we sent 2 dresses in to get sized to the exact same. And one of them was bigger than the other one. She wore the big one the first day, but the smaller one, it was just slightly too small. We couldn't get it on. And this was the big scene, you know? Blood in the bathtub and all this crazy stuff. And this had to be perfect. So, thank God my dad taught me the basics of sewing, because I had to figure out how to make this very sheer linen white sundress somehow magically a larger size. It's practically see-through. There's very little extra material on this thing. So what I did was, thank God the pockets were made of the same material that the dress was, because a lot of times the pocket material is different. So I cut off the pocket material, broke it down into strips, and opened the seam where it was too small, and put fabric in and sewed it up. They were waiting for me. It was bad. It was really bad. They probably hated me at the end of that film. God, somehow miracle, it fits. I was like, if it doesn't fit, I'll add more. I'll figure it out. And does the scene without an issue. All this time, Nicholas isn't showing up. He's not coming in. Everyone's pissed at him. But I didn't know he was, literally dying of AIDS. Like, in the throes of dying. I didn't know. He wasn't coming in. He wasn't talking to me. He was pissed off. He was pushing me away. I just thought, I didn't know what to think. This is why it's important to talk to people. You gotta let people know what's going on. This is actually a good it's not really a playlist, but 663,000 views 3 years ago, 11,000 likes. We're not allowed to know the dislikes anymore. And he's got 558 comments. Okay, should we read the book eventually? It's 33 minutes in now. Oh my God. Okay, so these are based on these steps. And I don't know if I should have put them in the front or the back. I don't know if I should have put more sections, but I feel like, why? Just put the section that's relevant. So, excerpt from a book. The 3 personal steps. Forgiveness meetings. Now, this is an excerpt from another book I wrote. You're never going to hear this. Another book I wrote. And that was the one I called a book, actually. That's the first one. And technically it's a life manual, like how to improve yourself and then expand outwards. Because I was like, okay, well, the world's not perfect. And I was going through my sabbatical. It was a really rough time. So what I would do is I'd sit in the bathroom and I'd write. And I would come up with all these ways of which to improve things, because I was experiencing a lot of negative experiences. And it was like, how would I change this to make it either more efficient or more fair or more fun or whatever? And I would just type it all up. I have the computer still, but all those files are lost. That computer got water damage or something. Can't figure out how to turn it on. Can't figure out how to get all the stuff off. But I kept it all these years just in case. But I had lots of stuff written. That's technically the very, very first draft of the book. So anyway, my second experience, major life experience, was going to Ireland, and I met an Irish Spaniard, or Spanish Irishman. 7 years, got married. He has 2 beautiful little girls that I helped hang out with. I feel like anyone who puts effort into a child is helping to raise them. You know, if you're putting effort into a child and teaching them something, or having a really profound moment with them, like teaching them how to fish, or, you know, karate or whatever, I feel like you're raising children. And you have an opportunity and a responsibility. And I hope I did okay. You know? You always worry, did I do enough? Could I have done it differently? Could I have made it better? And yeah, you could. But honestly, when you're working with the tools you have in the moment, sometimes it's as best as you can do. You either lack information, or, you know, lack resources or whatever, or lack support. If I had the resources, I'd just fly them out and keep them if I could. I miss them both. A lot of sorrow in a life, however, there's also a lot of beautiful moments. And my ex actually taught me that. You gotta hold on to the beautiful moments. Because I tend to hold on to sometimes the negative because I don't want to be screwed over again. So I'm like, well, this happened, you know? And to an extent, okay. But then you also have to learn how to let things go and appreciate the good stuff that's coming out of something. And that's what keeps you sane. I'm learning something here, or, you know, there's something coming out of this. I'm growing. Out of the pain comes growth. Pain signifies change is needed or required. Right? Otherwise it wouldn't be painful. Okay, so then while I was in Ireland, I wrote this book officially where it was my manual, you know, how I would do it and the order I would do it, notes and outlines of how I would continue the book. And I started reading it to my ex, and he goes, that sounds good, but I don't really get it. You know, why are you writing this? Like, I don't get it. He's like, okay, fair. You know, I'm just throwing some weird random manual at you with no pretext or context. So then I started writing this book, Jesus Loves Your History, as a way to explain a book, because that's actually its working title. I did a poor man's copyright and everything. It's funny. I handmade books. I was working at the time at Druids Glen. I was working at Costa as well for part of it. Love Costa Coffee, love Druids Glen. All the people there, amazing. Really lovely. Amazing experience. I grew a lot. I was going through a lot at these places, and everyone was so forgiving and lovely. From my coworkers giving me rides home to, you know, making really lifelong friends. My manager from Costa Coffee, Kata, lifelong friend forever now. Beautiful woman, and her cooking is amazing. I miss her cooking. I miss you, Kata. God, if I could have everybody that I've met that's been amazing, which is most people, if I could just have them all near me all the time. I mean, phones are useful, but I hate them. I hate calling people on the phones. I hate doing the phone thing, but I feel like I have to in a lot of things, which makes me not enjoy it as much. I wish everybody just lived near me. Things you'd do if you were a trillionaire. Just move all your friends in. Buy a giant thing and just move everybody in. How fun would that be? That's kind of what this book is about, actually. It gets there eventually. Well, the other book is. This one is describing the first steps of that manual in a form that people can digest. So it's characters who come across this book and how it changes their lives, or how they change the lives of others, or how they change their own lives. And then I want to follow it. Eventually I want to write the second book, which will be about the family steps, and then the friendship steps, and then so on and so forth. And it's just my ideas. I mean, if I could ideally publish this book, I'd want to do it where the book has each page a section for them to take notes. You know, or write in their own versions, or write their own ideas. Because everyone's got really amazing ideas. Imagine if we all pooled our resources, our noggins. Like Bailey Sarian says. She does this thing called Dark History. She also does Murder Mystery Makeup Mondays. And I don't know, well, I do know why women like, you know, scary stuff about serial killers and murderers and rapists and all that. I know why. It's because we're usually the victims to these activities, so we like to know what we need to be looking out for. And, you know, what they act like and what they do and, you know, all this sort of thing. So we can avoid that shit. Like, I think that's why we're all so obsessed with it. Because we're like, please, what do we need to look for so it doesn't happen to us? Okay. Excerpt from a book. Noah and Hank. Excerpt from a book. The 3 personal steps. Oh yeah, Noah and Hank was the title when I wrote this version. My friend Trisan printed these for me because I was just stuck and I wasn't editing, and she's like, you need to edit it, you know, stop worrying about it. And she printed out 2 copies and she's like, just do it. I haven't really seen her because I'm embarrassed I haven't really done it. So I'm like, she was my accountability partner and I haven't been accountable. So I'm avoiding her about writing my book and editing it, really. The 3 personal steps, forgiveness meetings. Forgiveness meetings. Forgiving and forgetting are 2 very different ideas. Even where forgetting is unfathomable, forgiveness is possible. Forgiveness is the healing ointment we dress our wounds with, so we can continue on our paths toward more enlightened, happy, peaceful, loving lives. Forgiving our oppressors is not the same as forgetting what our oppressors have proven themselves capable of. If an abused, fearful, or hungry creature bites me, I forgive them, for they truly know not what they do. I do not forget what happens if I put my hand near an abused, fearful, or hungry creature's mouth. So in order to facilitate forgiveness and healing, I propose starting forgiveness meetings. Forgiveness meetings, the process. A neutral place, preferably outside in nature, surrounding or surrounded by other cherished elements, is needed. I recommend sitting in a circle around a tree or water source as a neutral healing visual for all meeting guests. Now, this is hypocritical of me because when my ex and I held our first and last, so far, forgiveness meeting, it was upstairs of the Magpie Inn in Dalkey on the east coast of Ireland. That's where I did my writing course with Ferdy McAnna. He wrote Last of the High Kings and was in a punk rock band. Beautiful, lovely man. Went to his wife's funeral with Rita. I'm so awkward at funerals. I really try to avoid them because I never say the right things and I never do the right things. It makes me uncomfortable. I'm an empath, so it physically hurts me when I'm at a funeral, whether or not I knew the person. It physically hurts me. You know? That's why I really appreciate when, like, you hear about Irish wakes. You really appreciate when they're awake. Because that's when people celebrate the life of the individual who has passed, as opposed to mourning it. I mean, it's mourning, but it's a different type. You know? Celebrating their life. Okay. Anyway, I'm a hypocrite on this because we held our first meeting indoors upstairs in the exact same spot where I did my writing courses with Ferdy and McGanna. And I made a really good friend, Tamira. I miss her as well. Tamira is a photographer for BBC, camera person, shall I say, literally. Tamira started out as Tim, born with both male and female organs, to the point where she and he could give birth both ways, like fully functioning organs, both of them. And Tamira faced a lot of negative emotions about it from people, a lot of negative reactions. Had her child taken in the first instance, and then the second instance, you know, really great relationship with the other child. It's like pure yin and yang in one human being. And Tamara was there learning how to perfect and clean up. She didn't need much help. She experienced cancer and she was forced to choose her female organs because her male organs got cancer. She did not want to. I was like, if you could do, you know, if you could have kept both, would you have? And she's like, hell yeah, I loved it. I loved, when I finally came comfortable with who I was, I loved myself for all of me. And I thought that was beautiful. So yeah, I didn't do the first meeting outside. I did it inside. And it was just me and Rick, and nobody else showed up. It was like kind of disheartening. You know, I know you just gotta keep going with it, but I just felt like it wasn't the time. You know, it wasn't the time to start these. And they weren't really for me to start. I felt like they were for people to start for themselves. That's a cop-out. I was just, you know, feeling sorry for myself for the rejection because nobody showed up. I think that's really what it is. Okay. All attendees take turns verbally giving affirming forgiveness to those who have knowingly or unknowingly caused us harm, pain, uncomforted. What? I need a pen, which I don't have right now, but it needs to be uncomfort instead of uncomforted. I type really fast and I just sometimes type the wrong word. Like I'm thinking of both. I mean, technically someone causing you pain due to not comforting you, so uncomforted is probably what I was thinking. I just made a typo. All attendees take turns verbally giving affirming forgiveness to those who have knowingly or unknowingly caused us harm, pain, uncomfort, confusion, or any negative feeling we associate with whomever or whatever we need to forgive in order to release ourselves from that painful memory, feeling, situation, etc. I forgive myself for not feeling brave enough to birth at home. And I appreciate the doctor and nurses who helped deliver my child into this world the best possible way it could have gone, considering the circumstances. I was very blessed. My doctor, Shaw, best OBGYN I've ever had. I appreciate her. She is logical, she can think for herself, and she can work with information in front of her instead of just being like dogmatic about what's in the book. She is able to actually use information and connect things and use natural and Western, and she's just like brilliant. She works for, I don't remember. I never remember. It's Desert something. There's all these deserts and all the names surrounding me, so I get them all mixed up. That's a version, that's an example of someone starting off the meeting themselves, you know, that's what I could have said. What's another thing? I forgive myself for not bringing in enough money to sustain things properly and not be on medical. You know, not being on food stamps. This stuff does not translate into dollars or carrots or formula or whatever. It's just stuff, which is really helpful and useful in its own right. Like, you need baby clothes, you need diapers, you need all these things. And when you are blessed to receive gifts from your friends and loved ones, when you have a child, to be able to maintain that child, I mean, it's amazing how people come through. My best friend, I have a couple of really good friends. Kara's been sending me care packages of boxes of baby clothes and toys and everything, because she knows I need a lot of these things, and she's just sharing so purely. And now I have this abundance, and I'm so grateful. Every time I look at my abundance, I'm so grateful. And I'm just thinking, like, who do I help next? You know? Does she want me to send it back to her, or does she want me to pass the kindness on forward? Because if so, and my sister has a boy, I would like to pass a lot of these things to her, because she needs the help. You know? I forgive myself for not calling my friends more regularly, because I know they need it just as much as I do. And yet I don't do it. I guess I feel like my energy is not ideal, and I don't want to burden them further, so I avoid them. But isn't that what friendship is for? To burden each other? You know what I mean? So, we preach what we need to learn the most, and this book is me preaching to myself, like, hey, you gotta learn how to forgive yourself, and you gotta learn to forgive when other people hurt you as well. Like, I've got a few situations that have happened in my past that have really done a number on me. People have really hurt me, because hurt people hurt people. You know, when you're hurting, you're not paying attention to how you're affecting other people, and a lot of times you might be hurting them. You know, you might be lashing out, you might try to control somebody else because you felt like, you know, maybe nobody helped you with something, or you feel like people don't do it right, and they mess it up, or whatever. You know, there's so many different reasons to lash out when you're in pain that are actually righteous. You know, hurt people, but, you know, sometimes maybe they're acting in such a way where they think they're helping. My grandmother always used to say, and I never understood it until recently, which was, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You mean well, but you're actually harming. So you have to think about things not just from your own perspective, but the perspective of others. Sometimes I am successful and sometimes I fail, but the important part is to try, right? When someone hurts us, what is the one action we ourselves can do to stop the negative cycle? Forgiveness. What is the only action that releases us from our own personal, internal, or external hells? Forgiveness. How do we express love in its purest form? Forgiveness without bias or exceptions. Forgiveness is not for the forgiven. Forgiveness is for the forgiver. To love oneself enough to forgive any and all transgressions committed personally or by another is the first and most important step in order to truly reach a position of love, personal happiness, and universal peace. Forgive yourself and others. Otherwise, you will continue to suffer. Hurting yourself and those around you is not very attractive. Just breathe. Life is way too short and way too long. Forgive yourself. Forgive others. And the rest is easy. So that's the first step. The second step of the personal steps is uncomfortable changes. That's the second one. And the third one is free cycling and free markets. I didn't actually put those in here, now that I think about it. Because the first one's forgiveness meetings, which I dove into, but I didn't dive into uncomfortable changes or free cycling and free markets. So technically, I could write 2 more books just on the personal steps alone, even though uncomfortable changes and free cycling are both mentioned in here. I'm not sure yet. We'll have to think about that. Okay. This is what it looks like right now. I crossed it off completely because I'm like, I'm not going... Am I going for a cyclical, a circular story where the ending and the beginning are combined? So like if you read it from beginning to end, you could technically start the book over. Because where it ends is actually also where it begins. Like the snake eating its tail. But maybe it might be better at the end and I just do the story and it ends. Period. And then it goes on to the next. See how I have it written is it starts here, arcs, ends here, but where it ends is actually also where it's beginning. So you could technically start the book over, read it again with a new perspective. Right? And when this happens is when the next book could be written, if that makes sense. What is this? Oh, okay. So then I also put a note in here, 22nd of October, 2020. Note to self. This is actually when I was trying to edit. Add a challenge here, something that leads to the second book. The next problem to solve appears just as he arrives home, feeling on top of the world. Maybe a familial death or severe illness that forces Noah once again out of his comfort zone. So I'll read it to you. I'll read it to you the way it is, but I think it might be better if I put something in here that pushes Noah to begin the family steps. Because then it actually leads into the next book. Because right now it's nothing. It's just him going into the story. I'll show you. And by the way, yes, my name is Ashley, but I named the key character Ash at first and then Ashes. Because I thought maybe people needed me to spell it out for them. Because out of the ashes rises the phoenix. And the phoenix can be reduced to ashes, and it's like the cycle of life. And I like that symbolism there. You know, ash is carbon, it's life, it's fuel. But it feels egotistical as well because my name is Ashley and my name starts with Ash. Was there a way to find a different word that holds the same meaning and symbolism, but not feeling so egotistical? Maybe I need to stop thinking about how it matches me, and this is what happens when you're a writer and you're writing. You think to yourself, and then you think further, and then you overthink, and then you underthink, and then next thing you know, your book's in the trash. It's just what happens. I've pulled this book off of Amazon a couple of times, tried publishing it a couple of times, printing it, hand-making books. Oh yeah, so I was working at Druid's Glen at the time when I was writing this book. And one of the managers, he actually used to hand-stitch books. He would hand-make books. I think he worked at a library or something in restoration, or I don't know what. He had a really cool job before there was a crash and everyone kind of got fired for extra stuff, kind of like that, you know. But he was teaching me, he was telling me how to stitch books up, and I tried it out, and I have one hand-stitched somewhere. I have one hand-glued, and I have a few hand-stitched small ones, too. I was going to make, I have one up there. It's a little booklet that I made, and I was going to handwrite notes for people who purchased the book, this book. Because at the time, anyway, so, yeah, at the end of writing this book, we were homeless, and at one point we were homeless in Cork. That's where I really got into stitching these little handbooks. They were keeping me sane and busy. And I loaded it up online hoping to sell a few. And I sold a couple to really good friends, and I was supposed to write those little books to them, and it never happened. I owe a few of those books out. Pretty sure I owe one to Barbie. Yes, that's her first name. I think it's adorable. I met her at a Russo and Steele. We were working the ticket counter at the front. I love Barbie. And I love her mom. And her dad's cool. They all worked the Russo and Steele for a bit. I think the owners of that could do with maybe requesting forgiveness from Barbie's family, because I feel like they acted poorly toward them. It's my personal opinion from what I've heard of what happened. I think she bought a copy, and this meant a lot because I was homeless at the time, and my friend Rita Marie, my director friend, she didn't know, nobody knew what we were going through or how bad it had gotten. And she sent us $100 at one point, and, you know, this other woman bought us tickets back to Dublin on a bus, and a stranger bought us tickets. We were trying to make it go right in Cork so that he could get into this very particular prestigious nautical school. He got accepted too, but we couldn't stay. It was like Cork City didn't want to help anybody, especially from Dublin. You know, Cork feels like they should be the capital, not Dublin, so they're nasty to Dubliners. This is a huge book and story in its own, you know. He should write this. He tells me I should write it. He should write it. I audio recorded our experience. He has all the files. Both, you know, text or talk to text as well as the actual audio recordings. I'm sure he still has them saved on his hard drive somewhere. Maybe he got rid of it. Hopefully he didn't. That would be an interesting book. So while I was writing this book, a lot was going on. And whenever I think about this book, I think about everything that happened. And for some reason, I have a really hard time confronting it and editing it. I've edited it like 10 times, but I'm having a really hard time going back and looking at it again. So forgive the quality and the content. I'm working on it. It's always going to be a work in progress. I could probably do more character development, but at the time my thought was, why would I develop these characters further? I want people to be able to self-identify with whoever they need to get the most they can out of this thing. Okay. Forgiveness Meetings, Part 1, 1.00, Introduction. It was a reflective ride. Noah had come a long way since he first found the book, from owning his own car and working for the church to pushing his muscles to their string bean limits on a motorless bike and printing things for a living. Lots of uncomfortable changes. Feeling the wind on his face as he pedaled idly through the town back to his place was the only thing forcing him to relax, despite himself. As he entered the apartment, he could feel the warmth and love. Noah was finally home, and this was his family. Hank was sitting at the kitchen table as Ash stood facing the kitchen counter, making herself a cup of instant coffee. It was a surreal moment for Noah. The author of the book that changed his life was in his home, drinking his instant coffee, chatting with his houseless friend Hank. "Hey, pal, took you long enough. You'll be happy to know Ash knows her way around your kitchen already and made us dinner. Hope you like vegan." Hank spoke as if addressing someone known to him since birth. Noah wanted this moment to last forever, so, in his true-to-random form, Noah took a mental picture for years to come. We still have to get things done in here. That's what happens when you have an infant. You can't you You all right with the aubergine? Ash stirred a bit of cinnamon and vanilla into Noah's pug mug, then took a seat to the left of Hank. Honestly, I have no clue what this even is. Noah had a problem admitting ignorance. Okay, now I'm really distracted. It's okay. That's my own fault. ADD what? Alright, let's take it back a step. So, Ash, by the way, is Irish. I just can't do the accent properly. There's more character development on her toward the end of the book. This shouldn't require me to explain it, but I'm giving you that. Because if you had the hard copy in your hands, you could read the last chapter before you read this, and it would fit a little bit better. This is why I think I should put it at the end. I'm not sure. Tell me what you think. Hey, pal. Took you long enough. You'll be happy to know Ash knows her way around your kitchen already and made us dinner. Hope you like vegan. Hank is a homeless man who's also a vegan. He's very particular about what he puts in his body, although he is a bit of an alcoholic. He likes his whiskey. I feel like maybe I should do character development in the beginning of the book. You're yelling at me, telling me to keep reading, aren't you? I keep over-explaining everything. Hank spoke as if addressing someone known to him since birth. Noah wanted this moment to last forever. So in his true-to-random form, Noah took a mental picture for years to come. You all right with aubergine? Ash stirred a bit of cinnamon and vanilla into Noah's pug mug, then took a seat to the left of Hank. Honestly, I have no clue what that even is. Noah had no problem admitting ignorance. He believed it saved everyone time and energy. Eggplant, Hank smiled, as he took a sip of his jasmine tea. It's eggplant, kid. That's what aubergine is. Noah remembered Hank spouting off at the flea market about drinking coffee with them that evening in celebration, and Noah was not going to let it go for nothing. Thought you were gonna have coffee with us, Hank. Yeah, after dinner. So Hank also doesn't drink coffee; he just drinks tea, and Noah always messes with him because Noah is addicted to caffeine and he drinks coffee 24/7. And Hank was, saying he was going to drink coffee with everybody as a celebration. And Noah was, shocked. He's, not going to let it go. Like, hey, I thought you were going to have coffee with us tonight because we did our free market today. Let's celebrate. The last chapter's all about them setting up their first free market. So, he said he was going to have coffee with them at the evening time, after dinner. This is why it needs to be edited. The response was surprising to Noah. Hank was never one to compromise, not even for a woman. So, Noah felt like Hank was doing this to impress Ash, which is very possible. The response was surprising to Noah. Hank was never one to compromise, not even for a woman. I've heard about this. Putting his body in motion, taking off Prince William's leash, Noah moseyed over to the kitchen table to join his company. This is what it must be like when hell freezes over. The three laughed, and Ash slid her fresh cuppa in front of Noah as a gesture of kindness and affinity for her new kindred spirit. So she made herself a cup of coffee, and it had vanilla and cinnamon. It was beautiful, and it was ready to be drunk, and Noah walks in. And so he sits down and she slides the coffee straight over to him, just, sharing with him. She gets up and starts making another one. I shouldn't have to explain this. I need to be a better writer. The three laughed, and Ash slid her fresh cuppa in front of Noah as a gesture of kindness and affinity for her new kindred spirit. So Noah, I'm curious. How did you come to find a copy of me book? Ash stood up and turned on the hot water kettle as she pulled out another mug. It was the one Mother bought him when she was visited Greece. Why am I thinking about something else? Cuppa. It's cup of tea or coffee. Ireland, they refer to cups of coffee or tea as a cuppa. Like, have a cuppa. Misunderstood words, right? I went to a Scientology-based school. You're never going to get through this book. I went through a Scientology-based school for part of my education, secondary school, high school, and I did learning how to learn. I learned study techniques, communication drills, all sorts of stuff. I'll show you the books. This saved my learning career. Taught me how to teach myself. And this saved me on how to communicate with people. Other stories for other times. So, when I come across a word that makes me think I might not understand it. Now, I think maybe if you're American and you're listening to this, you might not know what a cuppa is. You could use deductive reasoning and assume. However, sometimes people aren't able to do that either. So stopping and explaining it so that they understand helps, especially if English is your second or third or fourth or fifth language. You know? Cuppa is not a word you can look up. I guess so. Yeah, you're right. It probably is. The internet has changed everything. Not everything is a dictionary word. What was that one website? Urban Dictionary. It's probably in there. Ash stood up and turned on the hot water kettle as she pulled out another mug. It was the one Mother bought him when she visited Greece. Noah contemplated her choice of words and coffee receptacle. I'm not sure you would approve of who I was when I happened upon your written words. Noah looked down at his coffee and then at the floor. Well, I'm not sure you would approve of who I was when I wrote the feckin' thing. Ash smiled. Noah thought her Irish accent was entrancing, the bad words making her even more so. Noah shook his head. Doubtful. True story. Ash raised her left hand and put her right on top of her coffee cup. Hypocrite to the maximum level. Finished pouring a new cup, she sat back down between her new friends. I am a firm believer that we preach what we need to learn the most. And then hopefully we can learn the lesson before it's too late. Hank was staying out of this one, refusing to give his young pal any hint or direction for what he should say or do. Fuck it, it's fine. If you really want to know. There was an internal struggle about where Noah felt he should begin. Noah knew where he should start, but he was scared Ash would hate him, or at least never look at him the same. You tell me your history and I'll tell you mine. Ash winked. Picking up the perfectly rolled doobie from the center of the table, Noah lit it up and exhaled to light the embers without just setting fire to the paper. Every movement was a sign of growth and as an ever-evolving young man. All right, here goes nothing. It was a dark and dreary night as usual. I was overdressed for the occasion. Oh no. It was dark and dreary night, and as usual, I was overdressed for the occasion. God, this needs so much work. And I need cough drops. I want this to be the kind of thing that can be turned into a screenplay easily, which is why I kind of write it the way I do.
Yeah, it's not a novel.
It's not really a novel.
Way more of a screenplay.
It is more of a screenplay, I guess. It's just not structured as one. I can picture everything in my head, the characters and everything, how they look. I'm going to reread that all the way through once, and I'm going to put in the comments where this starts, so you can skip the first hour and 15 minutes. Okay. 1.00 Forgiveness Meetings, Part 1. This is the introduction. It was a reflective ride. Noah had come a long way since he first found the book, from owning his own car and working for the church, to pushing his muscles to their string bean limits on a motorless bike and printing things for a living. Lots of uncomfortable changes. Feeling the wind on his face as he pedaled idly through the town back to his place was the only thing forcing him to relax despite himself. As he entered the apartment, he could feel the warmth and love. Noah was finally home, and this was his family. Hank was sitting at the kitchen table as Ash stood facing the kitchen counter, making herself a cup of instant coffee. It was a surreal moment for Noah. The author of the book that changed his life was in his home, drinking his instant coffee and chatting with his houseless friend Hank. "Hey pal, took you long enough. You'll be happy to know Ash knows her way around your kitchen already and made us dinner. Hope you like vegan." Hank spoke as if addressing someone known to him since birth. Noah wanted this moment to last forever, so in his true to Noah form, he took a mental picture for years to come. You know when you really stop and soak in everything to try and remember the moment, how the colors felt, the smell, what was said, how you felt, just remember the whole experience? You alright with aubergine? Asha stirred a bit of cinnamon and vanilla into Noah's pug mug and then took a seat to the left of Hank. Wait a minute, I think we have a continuity issue. Oh no, we don't. Honestly, I have no clue what that even is. Noah had no problem admitting ignorance. He believed it saved everyone time and energy. Eggplant. Hank smiled as he took a sip of his jasmine tea. Noah remembered Hank spouting off at the flea market about drinking coffee with them that evening, in celebration, and Noah was not going to let it go for nothing. "I thought you were going to have a coffee with us, Hank." "Yeah, after dinner." The response was surprising to Noah. Hank was never one to compromise, not even for the affection of a woman. I should add that word there. "I've heard about this." Putting his body in motion, taking Prince William off the leash, Noah moseyed over to the kitchen table to join his company. This is what it must be like when hell freezes over. The three laughed, and Ash slid her fresh cuppa in front of Noah as a gesture of kindness and affinity for her new kindred spirit. "So, Noah, I'm curious. How did you come to find a copy of me book?" Ash stood up and turned on the hot water kettle as she pulled out another mug. It was the one Mother bought him when she visited Greece. Noah contemplated her choice of words and coffee receptacle. "I'm not sure you would approve of who I was when I happened upon your written words." Noah looked down at his coffee and then at the floor. "Well, I'm not sure you would approve of who I was when I wrote the feckin' thing." Ash smiled. Noah thought her Irish accent was entrancing, the bad words making her even more so. Noah shook his head. "No, it's doubtful." "True story." Ash raised her left hand and put her right on top of her coffee cup. Hypocrite to the maximum level. Finished pouring a new cup, she sat back down between her new friends. "I am a firm believer that we preach what we need to learn the most, and then hopefully this is why I don't do accents. "And then hopefully we learn the lesson before it's too late." Hank was staying out of this one, refusing to give his young pal any hint of direction for what he should say or do. "Fuck it, fine, if you really want to know." There was an internal struggle about where Noah felt he should begin. Noah knew where he should start. but he was scared Ash would hate him, or at least never look at him again the same. You tell me yours, and I'll tell you mine, Ash winked. Picking up the perfectly rolled doobie from the center of the table, Noah lit it up and exhaled to light the embers without setting fire to the paper. Every movement was a sign of growth and an ever-evolving young man. All right, here goes nothing. It was a dark and dreary night, and as usual, I was overdressed for the occasion. Okay, this is my brain on paper. I then wrote a little story from the author to the reader, and I tried to explain myself. And I was like, is this even necessary? You know? Dear reader, before we dive into what Noah was and the roads he would take to get where he ends up, which is where you find him with Hank, you need to be made aware of a few things. First of all, the moments leading up to Noah acquiring the book that would rock his proverbial world were probably some of his ugliest ones. Reaching his personal bottom is not pretty to watch. Apologies. However, without understanding his personal deconstruction, you will never fully be in a position to appreciate the beautiful being that is Noah. Like so many of us today, Noah finds himself lost and drowning in the societal web constructed for us all, which we are told is for our own good. When he finally stops accepting his daily dose of social medicine and starts to pick up and examine the broken pieces of his socially acceptable life, well, I'll let you decide if the change was for the best. So without further delay, and as your self-appointed story guide, I have decided to soften the blow by recalling such a story from a mostly unbiased outsider's point of view. If you must still hate him, love him with that same blind passion. Balance has a way of keeping things in perspective, even if the two sides are sometimes found in the extremes. Kindest of regards, your devoted pendulum rider, ASC. (1.01) The church meeting. This is my debate of if I should just start the book here. I think maybe I should. We'll see. Well, I think it's a good idea. Yes, 1,000 is a lot of money for the parish to part with, but we would all benefit. Plus, how exciting to have such a prominent political figure in our church. Sue puffed out her chest as she stood unnecessarily. Sue was a dumpy woman in her 30s that would remind you of a pigeon on her best days. On her best days, the pigeon was still smarter and more elegant. The Tweedledee of the group, Dawn, interjected. Sue's right. We're all gonna have to start paying the carbon tax anyway, and by the sounds of what that tax guy was saying, it's all a bit complicated. You heard him. He said if we don't fill out the paperwork right the first time, we get charged double by the tax man to fix our mistakes. Boris chimed in, eagerly awaiting his turn to follow blindly, sniveling and sucking up the nose mucus before it had a chance to drip onto his upper lip as he spoke. You know, we deserve to be informed. It's a worthy investment for a few hours on a Saturday. The only thing Noah could focus on anytime Boris spoke was the abscess growing on his lip. Not even the whiny, sniveling voice could top that gigantic, pulsating abscess. Noah wondered to himself if Boris ever got that thing looked at, or if he just tried to ignore it. But how could he? Did he never look in the mirror? Noah had to look away just to hear him speak. A menagerie of idiocracy. Noah couldn't believe this was still even on the discussion table. Mixing politics and religion? A dirty disease of a combination. Nothing good ever came from their unholy union. Noah was the youngest of the group, yet he seemed to have more marbles floating around in his skull than the lot of them. Had the world gone absolutely batty? $1,000 for a seminar on how to pay a tax on breathing? The more Noah thought about it, the worse it got for him in his own mind. Frustration, anger, festering at first and then rolling into a boil. Are these people for real? His face was a placid facade. Not confident he wouldn't explode, Noah excused himself unassumingly. It was a late-night meeting and the bathroom down the hall was next to never used at that hour. The motion sensor lights turned on after a short flicker. Noah checked under each stall for feet to put his hyperactive mind at ease. He knew no one was there. Palms firmly pressed on the edge of the sink, elbows locked in tension, legs dense as marble. Smushed into his father's old Sunday penny loafers, his feet were sweaty and sore after a full day of walking all over the church compound, back and forth. Noah looked right at his reflection, but all he could see was pure hatred. He just got like that sometimes. Not being able to predict what he'd do or say, removing himself from certain situations, such as this, seemed best. The stupidity of people drove him fucking mad. He hated every single one of them. They all just sit there in their fancy suits and dresses, smug, self-righteous. Not one of them could last one meeting without looking at their latest electronic devices if they tried, let alone manage to actually give a shit about any one of the many sinners and perceived saints they all gathered to discuss at this Wednesday night meeting. Or any of our meetings, for that matter. Noah took a deep breath and continued his inner monologue with equal passion. Why would these people even consider inviting a politician and a taxman to speak at all at our church, let alone pay them to do so? This tax is a sin, all on its own. Helpful? Sincere? Ha! This is laughable. Noah knew he should say something. He also knew it wouldn't make a damn difference. When Father was alive, he worked at the local worship center. There was structure. There was at least a clear sense of what was right and what was wrong. That was all gone to the bin and taken straight to the dumpster for disposal. Compromising beliefs to suit the whims of a sickly society? Where is this world headed? How would Jesus react if he found out his devoted followers were in the proverbial bedsheets with the local parasitic tax collectors and corrupt inbred purchased politicians? Jesus was angered when he saw business and politics being conducted in the sacred house of worship of his day. Noah was expected to not only tolerate it, but support it all without question. Satan was present at this Wednesday night meeting, and Noah would take no more part in it. He stared into his own soul, seething, unable to communicate. Noah knew full well that each personal agenda they held close to their chests wouldn't allow the ears and brain to hear his reasonings. Even if he channeled the Lord himself in the dead language of the professed Savior, Jesus Christ. Nostrils flaring, lips pursed, jaw clenched. Then came the out-loud self-talk, slow and quiet. I am so sick of them, all of them. Our congregation is hurting already as it is, and these idiots want to squeeze the last ounce of blood out of every one of us. For what? A bullshit appearance by our latest political slob to talk about what? Taxing the poor, taxing the sick, taxing us all to breathe fucking air? I'd be surprised if the Bushes or the Koch brothers or any of the fucking large Monsanto-type corporations actually paid a dime, or if we're all just expected to cover their pollution too. Since when do these assholes have a monopoly on oxygen? Father warned about this. I didn't want to believe it. What a fucking nightmare. Noah had a secret thrill of saying bad words in private. It made him feel powerful just long enough to calm his nerves. It was definitely strange, but Noah justified it while comparing his vice to those of others. If the occasional bad word and socially empathetic open eye made him strange, Noah didn't mind. The money gathered to help the homeless? What a fucking joke. His voice began to raise. Not one person, including Mr. GQ politician in there, actually gives a shit about the homeless. Common sense dictates that not one single penny of that stupid tax will ever land in the hand of the homeless, alcoholic, drug addict, schizoid American, as I know these hypocrites all call them outside of church. Noah was so angry that it rendered him immobile. He wanted to run, he wanted to scream, he wanted to throw something even, but all he could do was stand there in the stupid over-teched bathroom. The motion sensor lights switched off and left the hall in complete darkness. Taking a deep, drawn-out breath, Noah ran his fingers and hands over his face and through his hair, trying to physically shake the hate out of his mind. The light switched back on, unnoticed. Enough was enough. He walked back down the long hall, opened the door, and stared at all the self-absorbed sheeple. Everyone gradually looked up at Noah. "You okay there, buddy? You look ill." Dale, the insurance salesman, smiled his greasy smile, as he did his best impersonation of a sincere human being. Noah wanted to walk over and throw up his leftover Chinese dinner on Dale's slick Rick hair. "I'm not feeling so good. I'm going to go home early. Sorry, everyone." Packing up his bag and heading out the door, he half-heartedly said his farewells. "Good night, everyone. God bless." Over the years, Noah got real good at masking his thoughts and feelings. Business as usual, he thought. He walked over to his beat-up Jesus-freak wagon, pulled out his God Loves Me keychain, then proceeded his daily ritual of jimmying his car key in the passenger side door. He wasn't sure why he even locked it. Maybe it was Mother's voice playing like a broken record in his brain. "Safety first, Noah!" It was a piece of crap, but Noah couldn't afford to get any major work done on Mother's hand-me-down station wagon. Heck, he could barely afford his rent these days after the church cut his hours down to 3 days a week. They told him the church was low on funds and would be using more volunteers to cover his other hours, and the hours of most of the full-time staff. 0-hour contracts were a nightmare of slave labor proportions, and Noah knew he was being lied to. Add-ons to the church offices cost a pretty penny. He saw the church tithe books only 3 weeks before. He also knew there were a few people giving themselves raises. But what could Noah do about any one of those things? So as usual, he smiled and said thank you, and went home to scream in his pillow. Back to the night of the meeting. Noah drove through the town on his way back to his apartment. He was still frustrated, and now it was building to resentment. Teeth, fists, lips, all tightly clenched. Thoughts of driving into a building crossed his mind, but he quickly reminded himself that his life was God's to take, not his own. Plus, he was too scared to follow through. Pills? Not a guarantee that some asshole with a hero complex wouldn't find him and call an ambulance, or pump his stomach right there on the spot. Hanging or wrist slitting? That just sounds too painful and messy. It's also not guaranteed sure thing. Gun? Not even an option. Knowing Noah's luck, he'd miss, and besides, who would look after his dog and all his potted plants? By the time Noah had finished talking himself off the ledge he never would have jumped off of, he realized he was already home. What a horrible day. He honestly wasn't sure if he could take much more of this. He walked his dog to the end of the block and back in a daze, went inside, loosened the noose he had professionally knotted strategically around his neck, took off his socially acceptable uniform of a suit, and he climbed in bed. Why couldn't life make more sense? With this, Noah finally slept. I think I'm going to stop there. I think I'm going to tell people they should start watching this around a minute 15 or an hour 15 in, because that's when I actually start reading, and it's only really 20 minutes. The rest of it is just me letting you get to know me, letting you get to know the process of what I went through, where I was at the time when I wrote the book, etc. and so on. Yeah, I think we'll stop there. Love you, everybody.